Zero. One. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another feature, Gullah Business of Charleston, and I am the president, Nicole Pringle, and I have the vice president here, Tiffany Savage.
Hello.
Like I said, we have a great feature. I'm super excited. I'm nervous and excited. Now, this person, we've seen him on TV. If you were a child growing up, like myself and Tiffany, you've seen this person and his family on TV, on Nickelodeon. The famous show Gullah Gullah Island. We have Mr. Ron Daise here. Thank you so much, Mr. Ron Daise. We're excited to have you
Hello.
on. Mr.
Thank
Ron
you.
Daise,
Thank you.
he's a he's an actor, singer, educator, author, and he makes delicious cakes too. I got to add that. I had to put that in there.
That too.
The cakes are wonderful.
We're gonna talk about the cakes in this interview too.
Okay, great, great.
So thank you, Mr. Ron, for coming on. We're super excited to have you on. This is like a childhood, like a dream. So thank you for coming on. Who doesn't remember Gullah Gullah Island? If you could just tell us like where you're from, how you got started into everything.
Ah, I am a native of St. Helena Island, South Carolina, down in Beaufort County. I'm a graduate of Beaufort High School. I just celebrated my 50th reunion, and I am a graduate of Hampton Institute, now University, in Hampton, Virginia. As you said, I'm an author. I've been several books, and I am a performer and an educator, and I do works that offer encouragement to people, in a nutshell.
Yeah, I'm like, it's a lot you do. If we could just talk about the famous hit show Gullah Gullah Island. How did you get started with that?
Gullah Gullah Island started from being in the right place at the right time, God opening a door of opportunity and having the willingness to walk through it. Uh, Gloria Naylor, novelist, had recently published the book Mama Day, and which is based on a fictional Gullah community, somewhat like Dafusky Island. She then bought a home on St. Helena Island, and my wife Natalie and she became friends. The book Mama Day was about to be optioned as a Disney movie, and Gloria Naylor had the person who would be the director and the lead of the movie, Lawrence Fishburne, and the woman who was to be the executive producer of the Disney movie traveled to Beaufort, St. Helena Island to scout for sites. On the last day of, I think, this 3-day visit, Natalie and I were invited to a dinner, just a dinner on Coffin's Point at a friend's house in Coffin's Point on St. Helena Island. And as part of that dinner conversation, the woman who was to be the executive producer of the Disney movie said that she and her business partner, she was from New York, were interested in doing a multicultural children's program and pitching the idea to Nick Jr. And the question, would you be interested? The dinner conversation, because we were parents of a 3-year-old and were expecting our second. What were our ideas about children's TV? We had many ideas. We wanted a program that our daughter, Sarah McKeever, could watch and afterwards not wish that she had blonde hair and blue eyes, because that's what the outcome usually was. Although my wife and I did performances around the country about Sea Island culture, known today as Gullah Geechee culture. And we had Black art all throughout our home, but as with most children, they wanted to be the images of what they saw on the screen. And the question was asked, would we be interested? And we said, sure. But we had heard things like that when we had done our Sea Island montage historical or cultural performance before. People would think that it would be a good off Broadway production, or it could be on a documentary on ETV, et cetera. And then we would never hear from those individuals again. But Maria Perez said that when she returned to New York, she would get with her partner, Kathy Mitten, and they would discuss the idea. And we said, sure, but we thought, yeah, that's the end of that. But true to her word, that's what happened. At a point soon thereafter, the creative team of Perez Minton Productions Company, Maria Perez, Kathy Minton, and Kit Laybourne, flew to South Carolina along with the gentleman who became the head writer, um, for Caswell Hyman, and they followed Natalie and me around for about 3 days to a week, and they saw how we interacted with our children because we performed. We would travel, we would perform, and we had a 3-year-old. During the day, for instance, I would be outside trying to engage my daughter in activities, tossing a frisbee or pushing her in the swing in the backyard. And the neighborhood children who were home, because an adult was home with my child, would end up coming in. These are the things that they saw. My wife, Natalie, is a visual artist. So she was always making something. And that's what they saw. I'm uh, a former newspaper reporter. I was the first African American newspaper reporter at the Beaufort Gazette following my graduation from college. Mr. Ron on Gullah Gullah Island is a newspaper reporter. Miss Natalie, she makes things and has art for all the children of the community who come around our household. True to life, we as a family sing songs all the time and engage each other and listen to each other. So, although we did not create the program, we had no idea for this program. The Gullah Gullah Island is very much about us in our real lives. That's
Wow.
how it came about. And Mama Day as a Disney movie never occurred.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. I
That
guess
is powerful. Yeah.
it
Right
needs to
time,
start.
right place. Right time,
Wow.
right place. And I love the fact you mentioned that. And you said not being afraid to walk through the door God gave
Yeah,
you.
that's right.
Oh my
We
goodness.
became cultural consultants for the show. So not only were we the stars of this program, we introduced the producers to our own community members and places and sites. And that's what viewers saw as they came, as the as our Gullah Gullah Island family went into the Gullah Gullah Island community. It was authentic Gullah speakers, authentic Gullah places. You can see the
Mhm.
moss on the trees. I think it was during the first season, a trip was made to Charleston, and we went to the market and saw the vendors there. So it was very exciting, and we are very pleased as we have learned and are still learning the full impact of the show. It will be 30 years in October that from the first broadcast of Gullah Gullah Island, and we hear from numerous people about the impact that the show had and continues to have on their lives. Many of them are saying, have informed us that they have their children and or their grandchildren watching the movie, and they're reliving their excitement about it. When we were in production, and we were in production from 1994 through 1999. And toward the end, well, we also did a Gullah Gullah live performance toward the end, but there were other times before 1999 that we had some type of a live performance. But as we flew about the country in airports, college students would come to us. They would recognize us and they would come and they would want us to know that they would skip classes each day that the show came on so they could watch Gullah Gullah Island. Senior citizens would tell us that they relived their second childhood each day when the show came on.
Wow. I was just thinking about when the show was on. I think I was like 10 and I was a little bit older than that. 94? I was 11.
Mhm.
And what was I doing at the babysitter? That's a whole nother story. I had a babysitter. I had a babysitter. I don't know why. It must have been some reason. And the little kids were watching, and then I was like, I'm too grown to watch that. And then I'm walking by watching it. I'm like, wait a second. And then I'm sitting down on the floor watching Gullah Gullah Island. And I'm thinking to myself, where is this island at? Is this in Africa? Is this in the Caribbean? Where are we at?
Right.
So and I had no idea, because that wasn't passed down to me to understand that.
One of my trips to Sierra Leone, my first trip to Sierra Leone, West Africa, was in 2005. The group was about to visit Bunce Island. That's the slave prison from which many Africans were shipped from West Africa and brought, many of them, to Gadsden's Wharf, the site of the I Am Museum in Charleston. On the ferry crossing over, a gentleman saw the T-shirts that we were wearing. It was the Priscilla's Homecoming T-shirt, a Gullah Homecoming. He went to who was the coordinator of this trip, Professor Joe Opala, and said, Gullah, is that Gullah like in Gullah Gullah Island? And Opala told him, why, yes. And the star of that show is right over there. He brought him to me. He was a Nigerian who was living in Germany. He had a 6-year-old, and they watched the show daily. So he had to take a picture so he could send to his son. He told him how the import of the show to him, the vibrant colors, the language that he heard spoken, and the people reminded him so much of growing up in Nigeria.
Wow.
Just
And that's
recently,
Yeah.
just recently, I was, my wife and I were at the Brookgreen Gardens, the Gullah Geechee Junkanoo Festival, and I retired from Brookgreen Gardens after 18 years in 2022. And the Gullah Geechee Junkanoo Festival was one of the programs that I'd started. A professor at Coastal Carolina University came up. She wanted us to know that we were family to her. She said that she was born with congenital heart complications, and that throughout her childhood, she endured 30 heart surgeries. And at each time for each of the surgeries, she said, she would go to sleep, be put to sleep. She'd be singing the theme song from Gullah Gullah Island. And she wanted us to know that she had childhood dolls named after each character on the show.
Wow. Wow. So
Wow.
I have to ask this question. So I'm gonna go ahead because I know Cole has some questions. So, Mr. Ron, I am just coming in from a long day at the library because I am a librarian. And
Hmm.
so when I look on my LinkedIn page to see that you have brushed shoulders with some of the librarians I went to school with and had contact with, I get so excited because I know the importance of archiving information and to make sure that cultures are represented the right way.
Right.
And so I want to touch on the educator side of you and the
Okay.
storyteller. And again, and your wife too, she was amazing on the show.
Yes.
It was like genuine when you saw the interactions. I think that's what really made the show. You saw the interactions. It was like, this is not made up. This is like they are vibing. And we would always have fun. I was like, okay, what's she gonna come with? It seemed like you guys just compliment each other so well. But when I think about that show and I think about the culture, can you talk about how you're working to make sure that this is being presented and being archived in a way that people can look back at it and see it more? Because I know we can look back at reruns of the show, but do you have any goals of, further showcasing this or showcasing Gullah Geechee culture?
Well, let me give you, just to go back in history, before Gullah Gullah Island came about, I had written my first book, Reminiscences of Sea Island Heritage. And that book, in that book, there were documented oral histories of many of the St. Helenians I had grown up under. There were lyrics of old spirituals that I had sung since childhood, sometimes at the Brick Baptist Church on St. Helena Island or at the Penn School. And or Penn Center, which evolved from Penn School. And Brick Baptist Church was one of the first sites for the historic Penn School, where classes had been taught. After that book was published, I scripted the book to a theatrical performance, and my wife and I traveled the country doing dramatizations of the oral histories of beliefs and customs, singing the spirituals and showing historical photographs from the Penn Center collection of St. Helenians from the late 1800s to the early 1900s. We traveled to schools, to colleges. We did conferences many times, library conferences, and festivals, etc., bringing awareness of what at that time I'd said was known as Sea Island culture, which we were very proud of. We would find when we would go to schools, particularly, that sometimes the children, when they saw the photographs, there was at least one remembrance. There was a third grader, I think. She saw the photographs. She turned around completely in those swivel cafeteria chairs. She covered her ears and her eyes, and she did not want to interact with the program at all because we realized that for a long time had been this stigma attached to what has become known as Gullah Geechee culture because of its relation with enslavement. But our program and the programs that my family and I try to or promote to people doesn't deal with the period of enslavement. It was only a period of time. And our heritage began before then, where there was a real culture, and many aspects of which are continued today in the four-state Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor and beyond by uh, those members of the community who have traveled and reside elsewhere. There's also important, it's important to realize that this very unique culture is similar to many other cultures of the African diaspora. Um, Recently, my wife, at the South Carolina State Museum, there was a staff member who was of his Hispanic heritage, and she was just marveled because the show meant so much to her. Um, Maria Perez, one of the executive producers, is from Puerto Rico. And that's why there was this tie in with the culture and the rhythms of the music, the dancing of Binya Binya Polywog to the rhythms of that music were some of the things that excited not only young children, but older children and adults. It was cross generational program that had impact on many.
Wow. That
Mm.
is just so awesome. Connecting other cultures through a diaspora, like because people don't really think about that word. Like you
Yeah.
have cultures that came out of that. Like you
Hmm.
really
That's right.
did. That's
Mhm.
that's awesome. Okay, Nikki, I
Just the
want to
name
start off.
Binya of the puppet, Binya Binya Polywog. We were asked to name some of the characters, and initially for the pilot of the show, the puppet was called Hodag. It was half hog and half dog. Um, and we told the producers we don't know anything about a hodag. And they said, yes, this is a part of the culture there. The Low Country. And I said, no, it is not. Um, well, it's part of African. No, I've never heard of such a creature before. Um, and then we tried to reason with them. Well, if this is a show about African American, an African American family, I don't think we should use the name Ho because that's a name given to many of our women, or dogs. That's another negative connotation or characteristics that imparted to our men. And fortunately, they listened to us. And when um, the Binya Binya character was based on Puerto Rican heritage, because there was the coquito, I think, of Maria Perez's heritage. But they asked for names. So one of the names I suggested was Benya, because as you know, if you are a native of a Gullah Geechee community, it means you have been here or Benya. If you relocate to a Gullah Geechee community, you come here from any place else in the universe, you will hardly ever be called a Benya. You would be called a Kamya because you have come here. And because it was a preschooler targeted program, they doubled the word for alliteration. So it was Benya, Benya, Polywog. And as such, Binya Binya Pollywogs have been in the Gullah Gullah Island community for years.
There are a lot of frogs here, though. So, good work. I'm like, I've never seen this many frogs in my life.
Mhm.
So you were on with your family. You had your wife and you had your two kids were on, right? Is that right?
Yes, that's
Wow.
right. Our son Simeon Othello Daise, who many should know or may recognize as Jabari Long from All American TV. That's our son Simeon. Our daughter Sarah Makiba Daise played our TV daughter Shayna's best friend. So Sarah was on the show not as regularly, but there she was. We were a family doing the show.
And how was that? Like, how was that having your family close by? Did it make things easier for you?
Well, we would say it's very easy for us because it kept us insular. And we didn't have to worry about children being left behind somewhere. We had caretakers, family members, or friends who came along, and it was their job to get them on set and to take them back home. Because sometimes Natalie and I would be on set for many, many hours, but there was care for them. We also made sure they were there because we were there,
Mm-hmm.
and the producers wanted them there so it could be easy for us. But
Mm-hmm.
we did learn that because this all came about um, through grace, through it being something that God wanted to happen. If we had gone through those doors that many actors go through to develop an idea, pitch an idea, or even uh, to do an audition for a show, we didn't fit those qualifications. And but this is the show is what happened, and the show is what it was, and it very much so because of our input in it.
Oh, definitely. And it came at a great time because growing up, like you said, there wasn't that many people that looked like us. And
Right.
especially on Nickelodeon at that time, because when I think back, I was thinking back, okay, you had the Cosby Show, and you had that Black
Mhm.
family, which was great. And then
Hmm.
shortly after, we have on Nickelodeon, we have you guys, and it's just like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
So it just
Right.
brings it like I don't know, it just brings it back. Like as I'm thinking about it, I'm like remembering as a child, like I see people that look like me on TV.
And many young adults of your age group tell us whenever they see us that the jobs that they are involved in today
Mhm.
began with their watching Gullah Gullah Island because they
So
saw
true.
images and they thought, oh, there are things that they can do because they see someone who looks like them doing great things.
Mhm.
And for that, we are so pleased for the authenticity that the producers helped to ensure that the show promoted to the international audience.
I have two things I would say
Mhm.
this because I did mention about archiving and presenting Gullah culture, but what are some challenges that you've seen with preserving it? Um, and what can people do to help support the efforts in bringing the culture more into the light, or just making sure we always talk about it and tell the stories?
Well, we can ensure that there is written documentation about the culture and the heritage. I am very pleased that my very first historical novel was published this year. It was just released in April of 2024. It is my ninth book, but all my other books have either been historical books like Reminiscences of Sea Island Heritage. And 21 years later, I did a sequel that was Gullah Branches, West African Roots, where followed my trip to Ghana, West Africa, and Sierra Leone. And I saw all these things about history that I'd read about or heard about our connections with West Africa, but I saw it all firsthand in the physical features of the people. In Ghana, particularly, whenever there was music, I was always just moving, and there were many times that the Ghanaians would say, "Aha, I understand." There were people carrying or toting objects on their heads, as I had seen on St. Helena Island as a child. The the crafting that was done, the fishing and the hauling of the nets that were cast into the sea, all those things, you know, goats going through people's houses, and chickens being raised. All those things were part of my heritage. And while in Ghana, I began to hear the tunes of old spirituals from my childhood. And I wrote about my experiences by putting new words about my experiences to the tunes of those old spirituals that I heard. There was a children's book, or one of two that I did, Little Muddy Waters, a Gullah folk tale about a hard-headed little boy whose grandmother had to teach him everything that he should know so he could do right and live a long life. And in Raptors in the Rice Lands, my historical novel, although it's based in a fictional Gullah Geechee community of real life Georgetown, South Carolina, there are many beliefs, cultural practices, songs from my childhood on St. Helena Island. Because one of the things from having worked with the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor Commission, and I'm one of the charter members. I was also the uh, chairman, the second chairman of that commission, and it was under my watch. And largely because of my input, that the management plan of the commission was released. But there are many of those things that are in Raptors in the Rice Lands. And I think uh, it will serve as a good resource tool about authentic Gullah Geechee culture heritage, and as said, its connections with other communities of the African diaspora. There are issues of cultural appropriation by groups who try to make money off the cultural resources of a people, regardless of having any of the income going to those community people. There are issues of land loss um, uh, by investors, developers, etc. Those are kinds of, as I said, some of the elements of Raptors in the Rice Lands.
So awesome. That is so awesome.
If you don't mind, I would like to read just from In the 21st Century Fictional Community of Georgetown, South Carolina, a story unfolds revealing family secrets and conflicts that challenge cultural beliefs. With big hearted intention, newlyweds Florence and Chadwick Wineglass attempt to promote economic legacy, but their unconscious motives often ensnare those they assist. The wine glasses become raptor like in their generosity at a moment when other community members' intentions also prove to be menacing. Conveyed in 4 acts and with chapter names that follow the production stages of Carolina Gold Rice, Raptors in the Rice Land spans the future, the present, and the past. And I think people will enjoy the read. It's also available as an audiobook on audible.com, uh, uh, amazon.com, and other platforms. And I am doing the narrating for the
Oh,
audiobook.
wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's great.
That is great.
Mr. Ron, when you were reading, I felt like a little kid. I was like, let me
I
just go
was
sit
like,
Indian style and listen. Oh, that was great. That was awesome. Oh, wow. And so, Raptors in the Rice Land and Delicious Cakes. Let's talk about that.
oh, yes, we
All
got to
right.
talk about that. And he left it off too. He's a fabulous baker.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Well, thank you so much. And that's a part of my family heritage. The cake, one of the flavors is known as family favorite, and I learned to bake that from my mother. And there are uh, grandchildren who who say, whenever they came to my mother's house, that cake was always on the table. So I make family favorite. And there's chocolate chip pound cake, there's cream cheese pound cake. There are numerous others. There's butterscotch cream cheese pound
Mm.
cake that I innovated and also was known as a blessings cake. That I'd hope would be something that would be like the king's cake
Mhm.
in
New Orleans.
Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's right. Because the blessings cake is a it's a 6 flavor pound cake. I add a 6 secret flavor, and the cake is adorned with edible gold. The gold is to represent Carolina gold, as our ancestors
Wow.
grew in the rice fields. And whenever those who taste the cake, if they taste a different flavor, anytime they taste a different flavor, they are to give thanks to God and their ancestors for whatever blessing has been
Oh,
endowed
that's
on
nice.
them.
And I like that you included with the cake, you included the Gullah prayer with it too.
I do too.
Yes.
That's another thing that really blessed my soul. Like, so Nicole had it, and Nicole was like, Tiffany, I got cake. And she's like, I saved it for you. She took it out. And I mean, to see that prayer along with it, I think that was the sweetest thing because it's like you could tell your heart was really into it. Because it was like, oh, it wasn't like I'm just baking a cake. It's like, no, I put my heart, I want you to feel the love
That's
when you
right.
take a bite into this cake. And then I saw the prayer. I was like, this is so amazing. Me and Nicole were just looking at each other. It was like, wow, you know?
Well, thank you for being one of the customers.
Yeah.
And with the packaging, I align my baking with my cultural heritage. Just the Gullah's pound cake prayer. God bless everybody when yam dish your cake from the head down to the toe and tickle their belly with the flavor and aroma with the good soap. Mr. Ron, show some love in the bowl while him dinner hum a mixing tune. And when the cake come out of the oven, him say, it is so beautiful. Then him drop the mixing spoon.
Mm. And then I ate all the cake because that's what
And
happened. I
then
had to order it twice.
When I began baking before I opened an Etsy shop, and I began baking. That was back when Gullah Gullah Island as a TV show stopped, and my wife had the idea because I would send cakes as gifts, and whenever there are family occasions or just in the community, my pound cake would be one of the things that people would be looking for. So she had an idea about beginning this business. It was her Gullah's pound cakes. And when the cakes would be given, I would hear from many of the customers that they would hide the cake box in their closets or below their beds because it was for them only. It was for no other member of their family. So the tagline would became share a slice if you can.
And that's how I know my cousin loved me because when I tasted that cake, man, you can get like she waited like 2 or 3 weeks. I think Nikki had the cake for like 2 or 3 weeks. She froze it and brought it out. That cake was so good. So anybody's watching this, like you could freeze that cake and bring it out, and it tastes like it was just baked.
Oh
And
yeah,
that right
exactly.
there, that's a master baker. If anybody knows how to freeze cakes and you bring them out, you know whoever baked that cake know what they're doing.
Exactly.
And and it was so funny. So she had a big hug. And she was like, Tiff, you need to taste this cake. She said, I'm not gonna look, but you need to taste it. Because she said, if I keep on looking at it, I'm gonna eat it. Like she held out. She held out. And I knew she loved me.
Because
Mhm.
what the story was, I ordered twice. That was my second time. Because the first time I was
Right.
trying to save it, but obviously it didn't make it. So I said I'm gonna have to order it again. And
Oh
so
God.
that's why I was like, this time I can't eat it because she has to try
It
it.
was so good. It was so good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, as a business, my cakes are available online on Etsy.com at my Etsy shop, Gullah's Cakes. And I have, although Raptors in the Rice Lands is available at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and other platforms, I do sell copies on my Geechee Literature Etsy shop. Of all my books, we have republications of reminiscences of Sea Island heritage, Gullah Branch's West African roots, my uh, novellas, Turtle Dove Done Droop to His Wings, as well as We Wear the Mask.
Hmm.
Mm.
Wow.
All
We
of
read the
them are
mask.
available
Now I'm interested. I'm
on
like, we read the
Geechee.
mask.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We wear the mask. Unraveled truths in a pre-Gullah community. And some of the blurbs. Uh, Joe McGill Jr., founder of the Slave Dwelling Project,
Yeah.
wrote Ron Daise offers readers a modern day slave narrative. We Wear the Mask is storytelling at its finest, interpreting history and the cruelties of chattel slavery in a way that is compelling. Let's see. Darren Lee Calhoun, the second of Avery Research Center for African American History and Culture, wrote, We Wear the Mask is a skillfully written allegory that effortlessly flows between fable and parable. Such careful detail is paid to the language, rituals, and historical period that the reader will sense that they are in the scene with each character. The subtitle is Unraveled Truths in a Pre-Gullah Community. This takes place during the early 1800s on a fictional cotton plantation on St. Helena Island, South Carolina. It's pre-Gullah because at that time, the terms Gullah and Geechee were not utilized. So it's called in a pre-Gullah, unveiled truths in a pre-Gullah community. And um, the book Turtle Doved and Drooped His Wings is also an allegory of about low country birds who are participating in the Audubon Society, trying to make other birds aware of the cultural um, uh, artifacts, the culture of their culture, and in the of Low Country Birds. If that sounds familiar, Low Country Birds is organization and the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor. You may find something interesting during that read
Oh,
as
wow.
well.
Wow.
Wow.
So we're winding down. We're getting to our elevator pitch question. Tiffany, you want to do that one?
Okay.
Oh, yes, Mr. Ron is gonna love this. So we ask everyone that comes on, do it like just a feature with us. You choose
Mhm.
3 words to describe their passion. And in your case, what are 3 words you would use to describe Gullah culture and your purpose and what you've done with your whole mission of making sure the community and the culture is represented?
So these are words about the Gullah culture
The
or
Gullah culture.
and my purpose. Well, my purpose is to educate, to entertain, and to express the authenticity and the remarkable uniqueness of a culture that has helped to shape America, American history and culture.
Wow.
Mhm. That was deep. It was like he was like, let me go ahead.
We always look forward to people's 3 words and how they're gonna express it. I'm always
Mhm.
stuck too. Every time somebody says, I'm like, wow.
And Mr. Ron, you have done just that. And I'm looking forward to reading Raptors in the Rice Land and
Thank
reading
you.
your other books too. Thank you
Mhm.
again for what you've done because I don't think people really realize when you put different cultures and bring them to the forefront, there are challenges that you have to face. Some people see them, some people don't. But like you
Right.
said, it was really powerful that you said you have to be, you have to be bold enough to walk through the doors God presents you.
Yes.
Mhm.
And thank
Mhm.
you for
Thank you for
saying
Thank
being bold enough
you.
to doing that because
for doing
that
that.
changed everybody's lives.
You and your family. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Thank
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 you.
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 Thank you.
So, if you guys would like to know more information, we'll provide more information on how to visit Mr. Ron Daise's page, his Etsy store, which again, he is a phenomenal storyteller, educator. Many of us know him from our generation, from Gullah Gullah Island, but also too, he has some really, really awesome cakes. And so I'm gonna get a couple out.
They're
So
Gullah-licious cakes.
the
They really are
delicious cake.
delicious.
So why are you reading Raptors in the Rice Land? Give you a slice of pound cake by Mr. Ron Daise.
That would be wonderful.
And I would also say too, it's a great present if you have a family like family members like mine, like my mom especially. Get them a pound cake, and of course they can freeze, and you can take them out, and they taste amazing. Again, we thank Mr. Ron Daise for taking the time out of his busy schedule to bless us, and again for his family and their contributions. Words cannot express. Just having representation on TV and just seeing all the work that you're doing still now. We appreciate it so much. And just like you said, I'm one of those people that you really inspired. Yes, I can do it. And people like me can be in these positions. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And to everybody watching, please follow him. And we have all the information listed below. And please like, share, and comment on this video. Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.